something feels off, doesn't it? You don't need me to tell you. You've seen the empty shelves at the store, the strange reports about supply chain breakdowns, and maybe you've even felt that quiet voice in your gut, warning you that something bigger is coming. Well, you're not wrong. What I'm about to reveal isn't guesswork. It's the same blueprint governments and the world's wealthiest families are quietly preparing behind the scenes. They're not doing this because they're paranoid. They're doing it because they know something the rest of us don't. And the first food on their list is a clue to the whole strategy. In this video, I'm going to reveal 11 powerful foods that aren't just survival tips. They're part of national continuity plans, the hidden lifeline that could keep millions alive when everything else falls apart. By the end, you'll know exactly what to put in your own pantry, so you're not left in the dark when the lights go out. So let's dive in. Number 1. White rice, the silent king of long-term survival. At first you might think rice? That's it? But trust me, this food is more strategic than it looks. Governments don't waste time stockpiling brown rice or wild rice. They zero in on white rice. And the reason is simple: shelf life. Brown rice still carries its natural oils which spoil in just months. White rice, stripped of those oils, can last 30 years or more if stored correctly. Think about that. 3 decades of stability in a single bucket. That's not just food, that's security. And here's the kicker: a single pound of rice packs over 1,600 calories. In a collapse, when every calorie is survival currency, rice becomes non-negotiable. That's why the US government's emergency reserves hold staggering amounts of processed grains, with white rice sitting right at the top. It's cheap, versatile, and easy to cook, the ultimate survival carb. But here's what most people don't realize. You can't just toss a bag of rice in the back of your closet and forget it. If you want that 30-year lifespan, you need airtight containers, mylar bags, and oxygen absorbers. This 3-layer protection, bucket, bag, and absorber, shields it from light, pests, and oxygen. Done right, it's like building your own mini granary, just like civilizations have done for thousands of years. From ancient Egypt to Rome, societies survived famine by storing grain, and if history repeats, and it always does, rice might be the backbone of your survival too. Now, food number 2 is just as fascinating. It's something so timeless, so powerful, that the ancient Egyptians buried it in tombs alongside their pharaohs, and shockingly, it's still edible thousands of years later. I'm talking about honey, nature's liquid gold. Unlike almost every other food on Earth, honey never spoils. Archaeologists have found jars of it in 3,000-year-old tombs that are still perfectly safe to eat. Why? It's science and nature working together. Honey has almost no water and high natural acidity, which makes it nearly impossible for bacteria or mold to grow. On top of that, bees add an enzyme that creates hydrogen peroxide, giving honey built-in protection against microbes. But honey is far more than just a sweetener. For centuries, long before doctors in white coats, people used it as medicine, to heal wounds, soothe burns, and fight infection. Even modern hospitals in some parts of the world still recognize honey's antibacterial power. So when the grid goes down and pharmacies run empty, honey won't just sweeten your tea, it could save your life. Picture this: the grid is down, pharmacies are closed, and hospitals are overflowing or simply gone. In that world, a small cut or a burn isn't just painful, it could turn deadly. But nature has already given us something that can fight infection, speed up healing, and never expire. That miracle is honey. Honey isn't just food, it's medicine, energy, and survival.
Packed in one golden jar.
For centuries, people used it to treat wounds, because it creates a moist healing environment, while acting as a natural antimicrobial barrier. Soldiers carried it in wars. Today it's still found in military survival kits, because of how versatile it is. You get instant energy from its glucose and fructose, you get a natural wound treatment, and you get something that will literally outlast you. Here's the science in simple terms. Honey has something called low water activity. It doesn't matter how much liquid it looks like it has. The sugars are so dense, they trap almost all the water, leaving none for bacteria or yeast to grow. That's why a jar of honey can sit open for years, and still stay safe to eat. If it crystallizes, no problem, just warm the jar gently, and it returns to liquid gold. Now imagine yourself in that grid-down scenario. No doctor, no antibiotics, no pharmacy shelves. Suddenly honey isn't just a sweetener, it's a life-saving tool. It gives you quick energy to keep moving, while doubling as your emergency first aid kit. It's one of the most powerful multi-purpose foods you could ever store. And speaking of survival essentials, That brings us to number 3, dried beans and legumes, the protein powerhouses.
E.
Lid. Speaking powerhouses. If rice is the king of long-term calories, beans are the muscle that keeps you alive. Black beans, pinto beans, lentils, chickpeas, governments around the world keep them in stockpiles because they can last 20, 30, even 40 years when stored properly. That's longer than many of us will live. Here's why they matter. A diet of only carbs is a slow death. Your body needs protein to repair muscle, fight illness, and keep your immune system strong. Pair beans with rice, and you've got a complete meal that has fueled entire civilizations for centuries. And it's not just about survival. Beans give you variety. Lentil soup one night, black beans and rice, another, chickpeas turned into hummus the next. In a crisis, that variety can save your sanity as much as your body. Nutritionally, beans are stacked. 1 cup of cooked lentils gives you 18 grams of protein and 16 grams of fiber, enough to keep you strong and full when food is scarce. And because dried beans expand when cooked, a single pound multiplies into several pounds of meals. That's efficiency you can count on. Storage works just like rice, mylar bags, oxygen absorbers and food-grade buckets. Keep them dry and sealed, and they'll last for decades. The only catch, they take time and water to cook. That's why you need a backup plan for fuel. Propane stoves, a wood fire pit, or even a solar oven could make the difference between raw beans and a warm life-saving meal. And now, food number 4 is something that most people overlook. It's not even about calories, but without it, every food you store loses half its value. It's something so simple, so everyday, that we barely think about it. Yet in a collapse, it could become as valuable as gold. I'm talking about salt. Here's the cold truth. In a collapse, you won't have a fridge. You won't have a freezer. The luxury of keeping food cold and fresh will vanish overnight. Suddenly your ability to preserve food will be the difference between life and death. And that's where salt comes in. Salt isn't just a flavor enhancer, it's one of the oldest and most effective preservatives on Earth. Long before refrigeration, people used salt to cure meats, preserve fish, and pickle vegetables. In a world where storage and preservation are everything, salt becomes priceless. But it's not only about saving food, it's about saving your body. Salt, or sodium, is an electrolyte. And when you're sweating, working hard, and burning through energy, your body loses electrolytes fast. Without them you risk dehydration, muscle cramps, dizziness, even mental confusion. In a high-stress survival situation, that's not just uncomfortable, that's dangerous. With salt, you can rehydrate, keep your body functional, and maintain the strength you need to survive. It's no wonder you'll find it in every single government stockpile. It doesn't expire, it doesn't spoil, and it can literally keep you alive. Now I want you to think about this for a moment. The system we rely on, the electricity, the food supply, the banking network, it's all fragile. One big shock, one crisis, and it can crumble in days. And the people at the top know this. That's why they've been preparing in ways the public rarely sees. When I first dug into this, I found something that shook me. A viral video from a former Pentagon officer named Daniel Cross. In it he reveals what he calls dark reset, survival before the silence. This isn't a wild conspiracy theory, it's a practical survival guide created with an expert, laying out what's already happening. He explains how the next great collapse may not look like war in the traditional sense, but rather a quiet war, one of circuits, invisible pulses, and collapsing systems. A war designed to plunge the world into darkness. Watching his message was a wake-up call for me. It wasn't about fear, it was about wisdom. He shares how to prepare for a total blackout, how to protect your home without relying on weapons, and even how to find clean water when everything else fails. You don't need a bunker in the woods, you need a plan. And his plan is the most clear, practical, step-by-step system I've ever seen. The link is in the description. Watch it. Even if you do nothing else today, that small step could change everything for your family. Now let's get back to our list. Number 5. Dehydrated fruit, the forgotten nutrient source. See, survival isn't just about calories, it's also about vitamins and minerals. Ignore them, and you'll break down faster than you think. Take scurvy, for example, a disease most people think disappeared with pirates. But it's caused by a lack of vitamin C, and without it your body literally starts to fall apart. You get weak, your gums bleed, your joints ache, and even old wounds can reopen. The government understands this, and that's why they stockpile foods that don't just fill bellies but protect health. Dehydrated fruit, dried apricots, raisins, prunes, cranberries, is lightweight, lasts for years, and carries the vitamins and antioxidants your body needs to keep going. It also gives you natural sugars for a quick energy boost. But there's another benefit: morale. Imagine eating the same bland rice and beans meal day after day. Now imagine tossing in a handful of sweet dried cranberries. Suddenly it's not just food, it's comfort. And in survival, that little comfort can mean everything. Dehydrated fruit is simple. You can eat it right out of the bag, or soak it in water to rehydrate. It adds flavor, energy, and vital nutrients, all without needing cooking. That's why it's one of the smartest items you can add to your pantry. And speaking of smart planning, food number 6 is a perfect example of how governments think long-term, not just about calories, but about nutrition. I'm talking about powdered milk, the lasting dairy option. Have you ever wondered what foods the government secretly counts on to keep millions of people alive in an emergency? Let's talk about one that almost nobody keeps in their kitchen, yet it's a powerhouse of survival: powdered milk. It might not sound exciting, but there's a reason it's stacked high in national food reserves. Fresh milk can spoil in days, but powdered milk can sit safely for decades, up to 25 years when stored correctly. It's lightweight, compact, and turns back into milk with just a little water, giving people protein, fat, and calcium in a crisis. But here's the part most people don't realize. Powdered milk isn't just for drinking. It's incredibly versatile. You can stir it into coffee, bake it into bread, mix it into soups for creaminess, or even use it to thicken sauces. It's like having a hidden weapon in your pantry. The science behind it is fascinating too. Real milk is pasteurized, concentrated, then sprayed into hot air that instantly removes the water, leaving behind fine, nutrient-rich powder packed with vitamins and minerals like calcium, vitamin D, and potassium. In a collapse, losing those nutrients could mean weak bones, failing health, and a slower recovery from sickness. That's why powdered milk isn't just a food, it's a survival strategy. Now let's move to something even more powerful: the very food that built civilizations. Hard grains. Think about it. Every great society, from ancient Egypt to modern America, has relied on grain. Wheat, corn, and rice aren't just food, they're the foundation of survival. And among them, wheat berries are the most durable of all. Stored properly, they can last 30 years or more. That's not just food for today, that's food for your children, and even your grandchildren. The government reportedly holds a strategic wheat reserve, openly admitting that they're preparing for a world where supermarkets might not be an option. But here's the catch: wheat berries are useless without the right tool. You can't just chew them. You need a grain mill. A simple hand-cranked mill can turn a bucket of hard grain into fresh flour that can be used for bread, pasta, or even tortillas. Freshly ground flour is packed with fiber, vitamins, and healthy fats locked inside the grain's bran and germ. That's why it lasts so long, because the oils aren't exposed until you grind it. The moment you do, the clock starts ticking, and it will spoil within months. This is why the government stores kernels instead of flour. It's food security for the long haul. And finally, let's talk about protein. Because no matter how much rice or wheat you have, your body will eventually crave one thing: meat. In a collapse, fresh meat would be rare and risky. That's why canned meat is such a game changer. Think canned chicken, tuna, or yes, even Spam. It's already cooked, shelf-stable for years, and can be eaten straight from the can. It's calorie-dense, packed with protein, and ready to fuel you when you need strength most. But canned meat isn't just about nutrition, it's about morale. Imagine eating nothing but beans and rice for weeks. Sure, it would keep you alive, but it wouldn't keep you motivated. Now picture opening a can of chicken, mixing it into rice, and suddenly having a real meal. That simple variety can lift spirits, and in survival, your mindset is just as important as your muscles. That's why governments don't just store calories, they store comfort. Now here's where survival food gets really interesting. Imagine a world where the shelves are empty, the power is out, and you haven't seen fresh meat in weeks. What would that do to your body and your mind? That's exactly why the government relies so heavily on canned meat.